It absolutely is different this time. We are off the edge of the map. We are somewhere we've never been before.
Welcome to another episode of the Kinvestor Report, where I chat with industry experts, discuss the market, commodity stocks, and the economy. I'm your host, Arlen Hansen. Today on the show, I'm excited to welcome back the legendary Bob Moriarty. Hardly needs an introduction, but he's a precious metals and geopolitical analyst, as well as the founder and editor of 321gold.com. I've known Bob for well over 20 years, one of the most rabid gold bugs I know, and certainly one of the more entertaining guests on our show. A best-selling author of 10 books with 3 titles reaching the Wall Street Journal bestseller list. Welcome to the show, Bob Moriarty. So yeah, Bob, terrific to see you. Let's set the stage here. Holy crap. Like, no one expected this parabolic move in gold this quick, I think. Like, we all have been calling for higher prices. You've been calling for higher prices for decades. And just how quickly it happened in the last kind of 6 months. Talk about what happened. Was this central bank buying? Was just people forgetting, like not believing in currencies anymore? Where was this parabolic rise coming from?
Well, strange enough, almost all of that. Now, I posted a piece on Friday that was really good from one of our best writers. And he said, much to his surprise, central bank buying actually went down from 23 to 24 to 25. So it wasn't just central bank buying. But when NATO and the U.S. stole $300 billion from Russia, they essentially said, your money is at risk if we decide we don't like you. And since then, it's been 4 years now, since then, there has been this gradual move, and it finally hit a tipping point and just shot higher. Now, what's really interesting is not the fact that we had a parabolic move and a crash, but what comes next. Now, on April 25th of 2011, I wrote a piece, and every piece I've ever written is still on my website. And to the very best of my knowledge, I'm the only guy in the industry who keeps everything on its website. So people can go back and read stuff that I wrote in 2001. And on April 25th of 2011, the very day of the top in silver, I said parabolic moves always end badly.
Poorly. Yeah, I remember that article.
Yeah.
I swear to God.
Well, here's what's even worse. I said, if anybody ever tells you this time is different, run for the exits. Do not walk to the exits. Run to the exits. Well, I was wrong. It absolutely is different this time. We are off the edge of the map. We are somewhere we've never been before. And we've got a president who is trying to destroy the dollar. Now, there's some really important numbers that people should be aware of. The United States is going $1 trillion further into debt every 80 days.
It's not. I shouldn't be laughing about it. It's like disgusting. But the numbers
Yeah,
are
but
so. But the
here's
numbers are
what's
so staggering, right? Like,
if you know that fact, okay, it's not my opinion. If you
yeah.
know that fact, you know what's going to happen.
Yes.
Do
There's
you
no
have
way out.
children?
Yeah.
Do you have children?
Yeah, I've got 3. Well, they're adults now, but I've got 3 adult children.
Okay, when they were children, did you ever have birthday parties for them?
Yes, we did.
Okay, did you ever buy balloons for them?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Now,
Are any of them
big
still alive?
balloon, small
Are any of them still
balloon.
around? No, they're all popped and gone.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. Big balloons, small balloons. If you blow into a balloon, what's going to happen?
They expand until
No,
eventually they blow.
yeah,
Yeah.
but as long as you keep blowing, it's going to keep expanding until it blows up. Now, some of the stuff Trump has done, I just want to smack myself up the head and say, God, he didn't really do that. Now, it frankly scares me that the United States spends $1 trillion on national defense.
Every year?
That,
That's the yearly number?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And what's scary about that is that is more money than number 2 through number 13 combined. Okay. $1 trillion for defense is a big, big number.
Huge number.
And of course, Trump was elected saying he was going to reduce the size of government and he was going to cut down government expenses. Do you know what his figure is now? What he wants to spend on national defense?
Well, I truly don't have any idea, but I'm sure it's going to be more than a trillion.
$1.5 trillion.
So he's reducing
Donald Trump,
he's reducing government employees, but he's just adding more military expense. Yeah, okay.
But here's what's so beautiful. Donald Trump didn't come in and expand the Department of Defense, Department of War budget by 10% or 20%. He wants to expand it by 50%. Now, you know how I am about asking trick questions. Name a war since World War II that the United States clearly won and Americans were better off.
Every time you ask me a trick question, Bob, I never have an answer for you. I don't know the answer.
Yeah, but that's the easiest question I ever answered, ever asked.
Is it the Vietnam War? I don't know.
We've had 241 wars,
yeah,
and we've lost every single one of them. Now that when I was a 6-year-old kid, okay, yeah, and I got smart with one of the other kids in the sandbox, okay, and he smacked me up the side of the head. I didn't do it twice, okay, because you've learned.
You've learned.
Yeah, you would think so. But unfortunately, I don't think Donald Trump learned from his mistakes. And things that he's doing, okay, the attack on Venezuela was not really an attack on Venezuela. It was an attack on China. And the attack on Iran is not really an attack on Iran, it's an attack on China. And the attack on Canada is not really an attack on Canada, it's an attack on China. Wait a minute, okay? Never take a knife to a gunfight. China is a big damn country, okay? And they have very bright people, and they are very advanced people, and their society is going upwards, and our society is going downwards. Why would you attack them? Why would you make them enemies? And the really simple answer is because the military-industrial complex wants it. Now, because I was in the military for 6 years, and I was in Vietnam for 20 months, I tend to be very sensitive to the military. I was reading an article the other day talking about the Navy, and they had a Navy ship program that was going to cost $9 billion. And since all of the shipbuilding programs since World War II had turned into such disasters, the Navy decided they were going to copy a ship that was designed by the Italians for NATO that had been a very successful, proven ship. So they did. They got in touch with Italians. They got the rights to it, and they started to change the design. And they totally changed it. It had nothing to do with the original design. The concept was brilliant. Okay, we're going to take something that works and copy it. Well, they took something that works, broke it, okay, and then it had, after spending $9 billion, they had to cancel the program. And some of the programs, like the F-35 program, which like 16 years past its sell-by date, I was a fighter pilot, and I will tell you the F-35 is total absolute piece of shit. Doesn't do any of what it was supposed to do. It's expensive. It doesn't work. It's years behind time. And it is the most expensive government procurement program in history. And it is a failure. Now, you can't keep doing that and maintain your status as the holder of the world's reserve currencies.
Well, let's just talk about failure of all these people we put our trust in, like just time and time and time. Like, I don't think there's any human that hasn't failed that's been a political, like, in the head. They've all failed us.
Well, it's funny you
Uh,
say that, because I tend to be both old and cynical. And no matter how cynical I get, I just can't keep up.
with the
The
failures.
founding fathers of the United States believed the least government was the best government. And if you believe that people are inherently stupid and screw ups, you want to hire as few of them as possible for government. And of course, we're doing exactly the opposite. But if you want to see what's going on, all you have to do is read Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, and everything that happened with Rome is happening again today. And it's absolutely predictable. Some of the stuff, I sent you some information on the Epstein files. Some of the stuff in the Epstein files absolutely staggered me. It was far worse than anything that I ever dreamed of. And you literally would have to go back to Rome in 300 or 400 AD to see the level of perversion and corruption and the military industrial complex hard at work. So we keep doing the same mistakes again and again and again.
So where are we in the confidence cycle for fiat currencies globally? Like if the US is basically writing the roadmap that, okay, this is what happens when you start printing money, and they're all doing it to do, like to keep up with it. Like this
Yeah.
is a roadmap for complete disaster.
Well, here's what's interesting, and that's a good way of doing this. Have you seen the Peter Schiff interview from a few days ago?
I know I haven't read that yet. I saw it. Yeah.
You should go to this really great site called 3-to-1 Gold, because it's on that. Peter Schiff says there is going to be a massive collapse, but unlike 2008, and it's going to be worse than 2008, unlike 2008, it is not global. It's going to be restricted to the United States. And I happen to believe that. The parabolic rise in gold and silver is suggesting hyperinflation. When China and Japan and Europe dumps treasuries, and there's every indication they're doing that now, the value of the dollar is going to go down. Inflation is going to go through the roof. And the debt-based system of the West is clearly collapsing in favor of BRICS. And more countries want to be part of BRICS, and fewer countries want to be associated with the United States. So Peter Schiff says we've got a disaster coming, but the good news is it's only in the United States.
Right. Okay. So a huge amount of the treasuries are due this year in the US, right? Like, isn't it like 25% of the treasuries are due?
It's a large number. It's easily 20-25%.
Yeah, like how are they going to finance that this year? Like who's dumb enough to be like, oh, I'm going to put my hand up. I'll be first bid for that bought deal. Like no one's going to be a bought deal on that financing, right? Like everyone's
Well,
leaving the U.S. dollar. Like why would this trend change all of a sudden? Like why would
I
you want
used to
more of
go.
something that gets devalued over 25 years? Like it's just the chart is plain as day.
I used to live in Pennsylvania, and I lived in a farming community, and it was an old farming community, and nobody wanted to live on the farm, so people would die off, and they had some of the greatest auctions I've ever seen. And I would go to these auctions with my wife, and I would buy things, and she would say, why are you bidding on that? And I said, well, everything is worth something. T-bonds are worth something. Okay, maybe it's 10% interest, maybe it's 15%, maybe it's 25% interest. Somebody else, and I think it was Ray Dalio, made the point recently, is that under inflation, everything goes up. Now, we've got something very strange, and we haven't even talked about the stock market. We've got a record high in the Dow Jones. At about the same time, we've got a record high in silver and gold, and that's never happened before because generally they tend to move in opposite directions. So Ray Dalio is suggesting hyperinflation. I'm suggesting hyperinflation. Gold and silver are suggesting hyperinflation. And I think there is a chance, I'm not going to say a 70% probability, there is a chance we've already seen the end of the correction. Okay, things could get crazy very quickly.
Well, it is such a tiny market, like on the size of it, right? And just 1%, 2% of people start believing in gold that don't own
Oh,
it right now. The numbers get stupid. Like when you talk to Rick Rule, like it's 5 times higher than this if something like 1 or 2% allocated their money to gold. It's crazy, right? We talk about
it
scarcity play, right? And think about the Bitcoin market. Like people are buying that up because they believe it's scarce. Wait till they actually can't physically get their hands on gold. That's scarce. You can call Bitcoin scarce, but you can always buy it and it'll always show up in your little wallet in a little digital form. But when you can't get physical gold in your hand, you start understanding what scarcity means. When you can't feed yourself, you start understanding what scarcity means. It's not a digital piece of paper.
Let me disagree with you.
Okay, please do.
Okay. Of all of the commodities that are traded, the highest percentage of a commodity that is still in existence
Is gold?
is gold.
Yeah. Can't be
Okay.
destroyed.
Gold, well, it's stored. Okay. Something like 86% of all of the gold ever mined still exists. Now then, let's talk about the sister to gold, which is silver. There have been something in excess of 50 billion ounces of silver produced throughout history. But unlike gold, silver is by and large consumed. Okay, so you're going to be able to get your hands on gold. It's just going to cost you a lot of fiat to get it. The metal you're not going to be able to put your hands on, it's actually silver. And the demand side of silver, when I was a kid, the largest demand for silver was coins, first of all, and photography, second of all. Well, we stopped putting silver in coins in 1965, and around 1985, 1990, we started moving to electronic cameras. So we killed film. And I thought, why would anybody bother owning silver? There's no particular demand for it. Well, that has totally changed. Okay. And the funny thing is, if you think gold is a small market, gold is a big market compared to silver. And in fact, buying silver is going to be exceptionally difficult. I know personally the Chinese are running to South America and they are going to silver, lead, zinc miners, and they want to buy everything that is being produced.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because you're saying that a lot of the silver that's being produced is being used and consumed, whether it's for medical purpose, but it'll never be recycled, it'll never be stored. It's being consumed, and so it's gone,
Well, it's in
basically.
electronics, and it's
Yeah, look.
just flat not worth
Yeah,
the
yeah.
cost of recycling. The electronics recycling is one of the biggest crimes in history. Nobody's come up with an efficient way of doing that, but electronics consumes a lot of silver and a fair bit of gold and a fair bit of platinum as well. But we're not recycling that, and we're shoving the electronics in dumps. Okay,
Yeah,
now
yeah.
100 years from now, we're probably going to be mining the dumps.
I like that. It's just a total little side story when silver hit $110 there on that Friday or whatever. My son was home. He's 19, and I'm like, hey, do you see what happened to the price of silver? He's like, yeah. He's like, I just saw that. He's like, it's just gonna go nothing but higher from here. I'm like, well, why do you say that? He's like, well, it's all in all the cell phones. I'm like, Felix, I've been saying this for years. How come you didn't listen to me at 20 bucks? At 20 bucks. He's like, well, now I'm wiser and I'm smarter now. And I was like, I called all my buddies. I was like, oh, my son just called silver to go into 300, the short-term top.
Well, let me give you a perfect analogy. And I have been a contrarian since I was in Vietnam, and I was buying gold for 35 bucks an ounce. I was telling people for years, hey, we're not paying for the war, okay? And something's going to happen with the US dollar. And I was just totally ignored. I owned a fair bit, and I'm saying a fair bit because I had a middle class income in the 70s and 80s. I had a fair bit of gold and a fair bit of silver. And all these people that I had been telling to buy gold and silver for years started telling me I should own more gold and silver. And that happened in November, December, and January of 1980. And I said, wait a minute, these idiots wouldn't listen to me when silver was $5 an ounce and when gold was $100 an ounce. But gold at 800, they think is a good deal. At silver at 50, they think is a good deal. I think I'm going to dump mine. And I did. Well, go back to 2000. I had a friend who owned a coin and stamp store in Miami. And I used to go there every Saturday, and I would sit and shoot the breeze with him. And when I had spare money, I would buy silver. And I was buying silver under $5 an ounce and a lot of silver under $4.50 an ounce. But I would walk into a shop and he would have a stack of 20 100-ounce silver bars, the highest quality silver bars,
And couldn't get rid of them.
I couldn't get rid of them. Okay. And he would sell them to me if spot was 4.25, he would sell them to me at 4.5, 4.75. He always gave me good deals because I was always a cash buyer. And one day I said, John, I've never been able to figure this out. I come in here and you have thousands of ounces of silver sitting on the shelf. Okay, it's so common. Okay, you've got stacks of these bars. Where do you get the bars? Who sold them to you? And he said, well, it's really funny. The people who sold them to me were the same people who bought them from me in January of 1980. Okay, In 1980, they were convinced that silver was going to go up, and in 2000, they were convinced silver was going to go down. And other than the fact that they had everything reversed, but it was a great opportunity. I've said this for years, you should buy shit when nobody wants it, and you should sell it when everybody wants it. You don't have to know anything about the dollar. You don't have to know anything about Trump. You don't have to know anything about Epstein. You don't have to know anything about anything other than people's behavior.
Fear and greed. That behavior of fear and greed. That's what you got to know. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I totally,
Yeah.
100% agree with you on that.
When everybody is terrified, get your money out. When everybody is gleeful, get those silver bars and push them across the counter.
When the ducks are quacking, right? That's basically what the ducks are quacking. So let's actually talk about that, right? Like you said earlier in your interview, like your biggest scary thing you hear is it's different this time. And Rob, I've been hearing this, during those last mini bull markets, right? It's different this time. It's different this time. Everyone gets sucked up at the top because it's different this time. They can't think of they can't think of a reason why it would fail. They can't think of a reason. This Vancouver mining show that we just had, Robert, like a lot of the big talking heads were there, right? Like, a lot of people that I respect very much in this industry. And they were all saying they can't think of something that's going to derail this move. And that's the scariest thing for them all, because they all recognize it. Like they all say, I hate saying this, but this just feels so different this time. And it just,
let me
it
give you
scares
an
me, right?
analogy.
Yeah.
Let me give you an analogy. April 25th of 2011, I wrote a piece called Facts on Silver. That was the very day of the top. And I said, parabolic moves always end in tears. And I nailed it. Now, on that day, the Sprott PSLV, the Sprott Silver ETF, was selling for a 26% premium. So silver goes to almost $50 an ounce, and the punters were paying $62.50 an ounce. Okay, now if you go into a coin store and each charges a 25% premium on a coin, you're getting ripped off.
100% you are.
Yeah, but
100% you are.
instead of selling at par, okay, which is what you would think, people wanted to pay 26% premium for the Sprott Silver ETF. Now, the really interesting thing is that if you go back to 2011, okay, with a 26% premium, if you go back to March of 2020, when the price of physical silver, and you could buy an unlimited amount, went down to $12 an ounce. If you bought PSLV, you could buy it for $11 an ounce because it was selling for an 11% discount.
Yeah. Well, technically, Bob, those ETFs should trade at a slight discount because it's the management fees and storage fees and things like this. So they technically should always trade at a tiny discount. So, but when you're right, though, when they're trading at a 28% premium, that's toppy.
Well, it's toppy, and when it's selling for 11% discount, it's bottoming.
It's bottoming.
But here's what's really scary. And Adam Hamilton said, all these idiots who are talking about this time, it's different. Okay. And I love Adam Hamilton. He's a brilliant guy. His article's up on my site. We posted it for 20 years. Brilliant guy. He said, people who believe this time it's different are idiots. Wait a minute. On January 30th, when silver hit $121 an ounce, there was a 10% discount on the PSLV. Not only was there not a premium, it was the biggest discount in history. Now, that doesn't make any sense, okay? Doesn't make any sense at all. And in fact, the PSLV is still selling at a discount. Now, I track sentiment closely, and I'm a big believer in sentiment, but you're getting very conflicting signals in sentiment, and this time is absolutely different in terms of sentiment. And sentiment is saying silver's at a bottom, which doesn't seem to make any sense. Now, he did point out, and this is a very accurate perception, I believe, that as silver was going up, it was not banks buying and it was not the public buying. They were actually selling. And it was people, it was short covering as silver went up rather than long-term purchases. So that's an interesting thing. What I'm saying is nobody, and certainly including me, understands what's really going on. And I love Hamilton, and he is absolutely brilliant, but this time it's absolutely different than what it's been in the past. And frankly, I'm sitting trying to figure out today, should I be selling silver at $81 an ounce, or should I be buying silver at $81 an ounce?
And $1 billion question.
Yeah, well, one of them is absolutely correct, and I'm not sure which one. But some of the smartest people I know, like Tavi Costa, says you could be looking at $75,000 gold.
Yeah, it could be a reality.
Well, Trump is destroying the credibility of.
I don't care if Bitcoin can go to $140,000 a coin. I could see gold going to $75,000 an ounce. Like, it's just, come on. And I want to talk about this Bitcoin. Do you think that's had the parabolic move, Bob? And it's over?
It's had an absurd move. One of the comments that I've made, and I've made 3 or 4 times to different people in different interviews, is that you don't want to live in a world of $5,000 gold. And that's because it is saying really bad things are coming. And Bitcoin got up to $126,000 and dropped to $60,000 last week. And I believe that Bitcoin is 98% speculation and 2% utility. The reasons I was told for why people should buy Bitcoin was that, well, it's gold equivalent. You could cheat on taxes. You can buy drugs with it. And these are all things that I fully approve of. Okay. But believe me, because of the blockchain, okay, if you think the IRS doesn't know what you're doing, if they don't, the DEA does. So all of these things that were supposedly benefits of blockchain, and I like blockchain. Blockchain has some amazing ability, but Bitcoin is not stable. It's not a store of value. It is trackable and traceable, and I think it's going to zero.
Yeah, I think my biggest argument still on it is everyone says it can't be hacked or can't be stolen or can't be taken from you until it's hacked or stolen or taken from you. Right?
Well,
then it's too late and you're done. You're toast. If you've got all your assets at that point, you're done.
Here's what I love. There were 2 con men, and I won't identify them because anybody who's been around knows who they are. There was a con man with gold, and there was a con man with silver, and these guys got thrown out of commodities permanently for stealing from their customers and trying to corner orange juice. And they spent 25 years trying to get even with the CFTC. Now, if you believe that the very most important factor in owning gold or silver is that it's manipulated, you're an idiot. and you're going to lose all your money. Okay. The price of gold and silver at the end of the day are determined by supply and demand. However, there is a commodity that is the most incredibly manipulated commodity I have ever seen or heard of, and nobody ever mentions it. And of course, it's Bitcoin. Bitcoin is controlled, and I'm saying a substantial 45, 50, 55% of Bitcoin is controlled by a very small group of people. And on a regular basis, they do stuff to whack people. If you go back to Trump's tariff tantrum early this year, in one day, the XRP dropped 30%, which means anybody that was bullish on XRP got wiped out if they were leveraged. On the next day, XRP went up 40%. Now, the 40% was not as big as the 30% because it's 40% of a smaller number, okay? But on one day, 30% of the bulls were wiped out, and on the next day, 40% of the bears were wiped out. And this is something that's supposed to be money. Guys, that's not money. That's not even gambling. That's suicide. That's using a Colt 45 automatic and playing Russian roulette.
Well, and what's interesting about that is like in the theory of not putting the power in the hands of few, right, is part of the Bitcoin strategy of like rules, not rulers. But if it's 40, 55% owned by a small group of people, it's being owned by rulers.
Right.
Which kind of defeats the purpose in the end, right?
Well, the strange thing is the whole theory is that it's anonymous. Nobody knows you've got it, and you can hide it, and you can cheat on taxes. But the problem with it is governments would love to have central bank digital currencies, and central bank digital currencies means 2030. You will own nothing. You will owe nothing. But what they forget to mention is, but you will be a slave. Central bank digital currencies are the greatest threat to independence and freedom in history. And blockchain is valuable. However, the 17,000 cryptocurrencies, as far as I'm concerned, are electronic beanie babies. And when I do an interview and people comment on this, they always say, well, Moriarty doesn't know jack shit. I was a systems programmer in computing for Ross Perot in 1970. Okay, so I am not ignorant of computers. They haven't changed. They're just a lot smaller and a lot faster now than they were then. But the concept of blockchain is valid. However, the utility of Bitcoin is fictional. And nobody ever whines about it being manipulated. But I'm telling you, every time there's a 20 or 30% move, you got all these guys who are there leveraged to get wiped out. And the people who control it, and it is absolutely controlled, they're just raking in the money.
Mm-hmm. Well, I actually just have a Bitcoin on my Google search right now, and it finished my question. How much will $1 Bitcoin be worth in 2030? So this is what people are Googling and making their investment decisions on based on an algorithm by what Google answers. Like if I Googled that, like you could say, oh, analysts are predicting this, analysts are predicting that, analysts are predicting, and then an idiot goes and buys Bitcoin because of what a Google search says. It's unbelievable.
Let me go you one better. Have you noticed how much fraud there is in interviews now? And I'm talking about outright fraud. AI generated images of people saying stuff that's so bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is somebody behind this.
All this, yeah. And they're all anonymous and they're all up in the cloud somewhere.
Yeah, I'm convinced it is probably CIA, Mossad. Uh, I think big money is manipulating shit out of people, and I'm told that 30 or 40% of the videos on YouTube are AI generated bullshit.
Wow. I wouldn't doubt me for a second. Bob, so fun talking to you. It's always I always love having you on the show. And I love your conviction. I love your wisdom and just like you're passionate about this. So thank you so much for your time. It's always great to pick your brain, and I love your bullishness on this.
Well, did you pick the one thing that I wanted everybody to understand?
Well, let's ask that question. What do we want all investors to understand from this interview?
This time is different.
Okay, idiot.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, I'm going to end up eating those
No,
words.
you maybe. Yeah, no, it certainly feels like there's something very real about this move, and that this pricing in gold's like a repricing and almost like a reset of like, hey,
Uh,
this is what we're willing to pay for this gold now, and we're good here.
that that is
And
absolutely
yeah,
valid. Now,
and
I'm
I
not happy about it. If you think $5,000 gold is dangerous, wait until we're talking about 10 or 20 or $30,000 gold. So you're going to be talking about $200 a gallon gasoline.
I won't be able to afford bread, my sourdough bread at $2,000 gold, $20,000 gold, right? So.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome, Bob. Thanks for your time, buddy. Have a great year. We'll catch up again sometime during the year.
Super deal.
Well, Bob, that wraps up for today's episode. Thank you for joining me again on the show. You can follow Bob and his work at 321gold.com. Highly entertaining, highly insightful. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media to join the Kinvestor Network. We are doing another conference called the Kinvestor Mining and Energy Conference. That's coming up on March 26th, and we're actually going to have a silver panel with Chen Lin, David Morgan, and Peter Kraut to talk about the silver market. So be sure to join that. It is our annual virtual event featuring top companies across metals, minerals, and energy, plus a dynamic silver roundtable discussion that I just talked about. Sure to be an event you won't want to miss. You can register for this conference at the link below. And until next time, we'll chat again.